Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Radhika, I'm a third year medical student, and today I want to talk about how to find your dream student rental. So it's coming up to that time of year where people are thinking of properties. They're thinking of where they want to live for the next academic year. I've seen so many of my friends struggle to find good houses. I myself have gone through that struggle, so I thought I'm going to simplify the process. I'm going to take you through how to find a good student property from finding people to live with to actually signing your lease. I hope you guys enjoy this video and find it useful. If you do, please like and just comment down below if you have any questions. And let's get started. So the first thing you need to consider is who you're going to live with. This is probably the most important decision that you will make. If you're planning on living with friends, you want to consider whether or not you guys are all doing the same course. If you are, let's say, then it might be worth spending on a bigger flat because you are going to be around each other more, or you might want to have 2 showers instead of 1 shower because you're all going to be leaving the house at the same time. These are small things, but they're actually really important. I think another thing to consider is if you're living with friends, are you guys actually compatible? It's like dating. You might get along really well as friends, but that doesn't mean you can be in a relationship. Similarly, just because you're friends with someone, that doesn't mean you'll get along with them living wise. And I think the fastest way to end a friendship is to either live with someone or travel with them. If you're living with someone, you need to try and understand whether or not you will be compatible with that person's lifestyle, because if you're living with them, you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. Now, for example, my flatmate and I have a rule that we both really value our sleep, and so we say that after 11 we're going to keep the noise down. If anyone comes over, they're not going to be in our bedrooms, but they'll be in the kitchen so that noise is minimized. And that's just like a basic respect thing. I really value my sleep. I cannot function without sleep. So living with a noisy person is an incompatibility. I have so many friends that I love, but some of them are just a bit loud and I know I couldn't live with them, and it's nothing personal. So you might have to think about what you really cannot deal with, because if those friends and you are not aligning, you're just not going to get along and it's going to be a really hard year. Trust me. I also think it's important to consider numbers. So sometimes people have these big massive friend groups of like 5-6 people and they all want to stay together. But living with that many people in a student house is very difficult. There's going to be a discrepancy in the room sizes. Is there enough space in the kitchen for everyone? Are there enough bathrooms and toilets for everyone? Those are things you need to consider. Also, how easy is it to find a property which can hold all of your friends? Okay, so let's say now you have found your tribe. You have found the people that you wish to stay with. The next thing to consider is the budget and the location. I think it's important to have either a fixed budget or a flexible budget. I could say that my fixed budget is like 400, so I don't want to be paying more than £400 in rent per month. I could say a flexible budget would be anywhere between 480 to 520, and I'm sort of hoping for the lower end. You also want to think about tenancy length. Some properties have a 12-month lease. Some might have a minimum of 24 months. If this is your first time living with a set of people, I would say stick with a 12-month lease. You never know what can go wrong in a year, essentially. And so if you're not compatible with someone as a housemate, you might not want to live with them for another year. So try and stick to 12 months. If you know these people really well, then consider a 24-month lease. Sometimes you can get cheaper rent if that's the case. When you're thinking of the location of your property, it's important to consider a couple of things. I think one for students is how close it is to the university. When I was in first year, I lived about 25 minutes away from campus, so I used to have to wake up super early to go. This year, however, and even last year, I am staying around 10 minutes walking distance from my campus. So yes, I'm paying maybe a little bit more for that, but the pros are insane. First of all, I can go to the library whenever I want. I can wake up a lot later and I'll still be on time. I can come home for lunch. There are better bus links. There's more to do in my area, and a lot of people do think like that. I'm also saving money because I'm not spending on Ubers, I'm not spending on buses or trains. I can walk. And I think sometimes paying a little bit more for convenience and also comfort is actually a good thing, especially when it comes to sleep. Like, I'm per day able to get around 30 extra minutes of sleep just because I'm living closer. Also, just a basic one, but think about safety. If you're staying in a flat, maybe living upstairs as opposed to a ground floor flat is important to you. If you're someone that likes to study at night and you like going to the library and you're walking home at night, I personally wouldn't want to walk in an unsafe area at night. Okay, so now that you've thought about the location, the next thing to consider is your list of non-negotiables, and I cannot stress this enough. If there's one thing you should take away from this video, it is that non-negotiables are like the most important thing. I'm not talking about things that you want, I'm talking about things you don't want. These are genuine no's. For me, my biggest no when it comes to a property is mold. I will not live in a moldy house. Unfortunately, a lot of landlords take advantage of students, and a lot of landlords don't actually take into consideration dampness or mold in a property. If that happens to you, report it to your council. It's not the tenant's responsibility to clean mold up when they move into a place. Yes, it's your responsibility to take care of the property to ensure no mold is on the walls, etc. But if you're walking into a flat and you see that it's moldy, that's not a good thing. What my friends and I did was we made a WhatsApp chat and we put in all our non-negotiables, and I would say there were around like 20. Now, these were things that we were looking out for. If we saw, let's say, that there was very little furniture in the property, I'm not buying furniture, so that's a non-negotiable. We need to have lots of furniture. You can come up with your own list, or here's a list that I've made from like a couple of years ago that I still use, and you can screenshot it. Okay, so you've survived this far. The next thing is like the Hunger Games, viewings. It is so stressful to actually view properties, especially because it genuinely is survival of the fittest. So how can you make it easier? Well, the first thing I would highly recommend doing is going on to that agent's website and downloading an application form and actually filling it out before you go for a viewing. Especially if you see a property that looks amazing in pictures and it lives up to your expectations or exceeds it, you want to make sure you're getting your application process done ASAP. Therefore, if you have the forms pre-filled out before you even go for the viewing, when you're there, if you like the property, you can literally say to the landlord, I'd like to sign a lease, all my paperwork is done. And even making sure you have enough money in your bank account to pay for a deposit is actually really important. I cannot stress this enough. Properties go like this. They go so quickly because people tend to be disorganized, especially if it's their first viewing and someone else comes along and takes advantage of that and signs a lease. Get organized, get all your paperwork done, scan your documents, have copies of your passport, your guarantor, your driving license, have a landlord reference. Those are all so important, and having it all done before you go for a viewing will massively decrease your workload. So when you're actually viewing a property, there are a couple of things that you should definitely do. Definitely do take pictures and videos. It gives you an idea of the layout and you're able to compare certain properties with others. It means that you can see whether or not you're getting value for money. When you're actually viewing a property, you're not just seeing, oh my god, this place is stunning. You need to make sure that you're considering the functionality of the place. What I mean by that is it energy efficient? Is it gas or is it oil heating? How is the electricity paid? What's the Wi-Fi like? These are things you need to consider. Ask the landlord, are bills included or do I have to pay them? Sometimes people are nice and they actually do include bills in the price. Sometimes they don't. Ask about the shower. Is it a gas shower? Is it an electric shower? Ask about water bills. If you have to pay, how much would it roughly be for this area? It's really important because sometimes places can be really suspiciously cheap, but then the reason they're so cheap is because the energy efficiency is really bad. The place doesn't heat up well, it's not well insulated, therefore you're going to be spending a ton of money on actually surviving. See if you can speak to current tenants. I remember going for a viewing and this tenant was like, don't live here. Like that was like her first sentence and I was like, why? And she was like, well, the landlord is really bad, he hasn't responded to my emails, there's mold in my bedroom. And I was like, okay, I take your point, and I didn't sign a lease. And that happens. So if you can speak to people and ask what their experience is like, it helps. The other thing to consider is sort of the overall impression that you get from a landlord or an agent who's showing you around. Be alert. That is like the most important thing. Pay attention to each and everything. Look up to the ceilings, look for any signs of mold, any signs of dampness, any signs of wear and tear. Okay, so hopefully at this stage, you're feeling a little bit more confident when it comes to finding a rental. The last thing that I think you need to consider is how you're going to live with your chosen housemates and how are you going to deal with conflict and potential areas that conflict can arise. I think the biggest one is when it comes to splitting rent, is everyone paying the same or are you paying different rents? So let's say you go into a beautiful 4-bed house and 3 of these 4 bedrooms are gorgeous. They're big, they're beautiful, spacious, amazing bedrooms, but one is a box room. Would you think it's fair if, let's say you got the box room, do you think it would be fair if you were paying the same rent as everyone else? Most people would say no. So then there are a couple of ways around this. I think when it comes to allocating bedrooms, I think the most important thing to consider is, first of all, how much space everyone needs. And secondly, if someone gets a frankly shit bedroom, are they going to get any sort of compensation for that? So it could be that that person pays, let's say, like 15 to 20 pounds less per month and everyone then makes up the difference. Or it could be that that person doesn't pay Wi-Fi. It might seem simple, but one of the biggest and most common arguments I've heard people having with their flatmates is, number one, in relation to like the splitting of bedrooms and who got what bedroom, and the second one is money. I have a rule with my friends that we are never going to fight over money. I will fight with you over anything, but I will not argue over money because I think it's frankly cheap. I think the easiest way to avoid having arguments about money and about paying someone back on time is to use like an online platform. So this isn't sponsored, but I have been using Splitwise. It's free. I pay for Wi-Fi and let's say my flatmate pays for heating, then we obviously need to split those bills accordingly. Putting it on Splitwise means that it does the maths for us and therefore we're not arguing over money, we're not forgetting to pay each other back. It's just at the end of the month we get a reminder saying, oh, you owe this much money, and that's it. So I'm just gonna wrap this video up. I think the final thing I wish to say is know your rights as a tenant. It's really important to try and not get scammed because trust me, people will try and scam you and you don't want that. Do your research, go onto YouTube and watch people like viewing student houses and what you should and shouldn't be looking out for. Ask current students if you can see their houses and ask what their experience was like. Check out your university's student council website and look for housing. You will find a property, but it's just about being quick and being on it and being organized. And yeah, that's essentially how to find a student house. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, I would really appreciate if you subscribed and liked this video. Also share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you find your dream student home. Bye!